Hi, welcome to the 35th Peep Show episode of Bare Naked Bravery. My name is Emily Ann Peterson, and I am a singer-songwriter, a marketing consultant, a creative consultant, and I host this cool little podcast. It's not so little anymore. When we first started the show, it was little, but now it's, we're on a 35th Peep Show episode, and we're in the 60s of our interview episode, and we have just reaching the cusp of 200 people in our little Facebook community. And there are so many other little pieces of, or little breadcrumbs of growth that prove that this show has grown to be what it is. And it's so cool. I'm really honored to be here. So if you are new and you don't know what a Peep Show episode is, then allow me to explain. I go through bravery just like you guys do. And I thought that it would be, if you have a podcast about bravery, it would behoove me to talk about it on a personal level, not just on an academic research level, interviewing level. So that's what these Peep shows are. They are a peek behind the curtain of the bravery that I'm experiencing personally it used to be on a weekly basis, but now because we're in this new season of a different kind of output for me creatively, that means I'm doing these Peep Show episodes once every 3 weeks or so. So, which brings me to our subject today. So I have these little notifications that happen on my end. So anytime somebody leaves a rating or a review of the podcast, I get notified about it on a weekly basis. And somebody named Kiwi Julie from New Zealand left us a wonderful 5-star review. And she says, "This is my new fave podcast. Interesting and courageous guests and a brave host discussing topics about bravery. Artists, creatives, and entrepreneurs, all with fascinating stories. The host doesn't just get tales of bravery, but has a massive theory about bravery that needs to be heard. Listen and be inspired." I thank you. First of all, thank you, Julie. If you're listening to this, thank you for that. One, I needed to hear that. And two, it does help us out. So if you haven't left a review yet, go ahead and get on it. It's easy to do it. It takes 2 seconds. And you don't have to use complete sentences at all. You can just use words or descriptives. You could leave me a poem if you want. So I am so grateful that Julie left that message or left that review. And I'm actually really grateful that I got notified about it on the day that I needed to hear it. So this month, if you haven't caught the last Peep Show episode, this month I am doing the final revisions of the book, Bare Naked Bravery. And, we started this show because I was writing this book and I was interviewing people to research the book. And I was having such great conversations that I knew that these conversations needed to not just be a quote, boiled down to one simple little quote in a book, but also needed to become out there. I needed to share all of these admirable heroes and their stories and their perspectives, the full thing. I needed to share the full conversation. So in the last, year plus that we've been doing this, I have learned so much. So about 8 months ago, I took a pause on rewriting the book over and over again because I just was like, you know what? I'm learning so much. I need to consider this podcast my own apprenticeship for this stuff that I'm studying. And I need to just absorb it and be a sponge and stop trying to force something to come out of it. But it's time. Now is the time that I am rewriting everything and taking some of these theories and these thesi, is that plural for thesis? Taking these theses or whatever and put them into something. And, I'm getting ready to put it out there. So the last Peep Show, I was talking about how I kind of encountered this an internal need to take a really low, deep break before getting a bunch of other things done. Rather than getting a bunch of other things done before rewriting this book, I needed to take a break and just take a deep breath and prepare myself emotionally for some of the stuff I was about ready to write about. And I think that I'm going to get to my point, I promise. the reason why I needed to hear Julie's review was because I woke up that morning and had like a thing, like a portion of the book that I was going to readdress or revise or edit. And that section of the book is, kind of emotionally heavy, but there's no other, anytime I tried to figure out another like story or another metaphor to use to prove the point, it just was not as powerful as the most powerful way I have experienced it myself. And so, the stuff that I'm writing is, it's intense. Some of these stories that I'm pulling out are from some of the darkest seasons of my life, which happens to be the seasons where I experienced the most learning about bravery. It also happens to be the times when we are experiencing the most darkness end up being the times that we also have the highest sensitivity to learning or to light or to change or growth. That growth is almost painful, right? When we're going through those seasons. So that pain is it's like the good kind of pain, it's the discomfort that we experience when we're growing as artists or as humans or as daughters and sisters and mothers and brothers and fathers and all of that. Like when we go through the tricky times, those tricky times end up becoming the most sensitive for us to experience some of these things that we talk about on the podcast all the time. And I really needed to hear Julie's review because I needed to hear that someone else thinks that this stuff needs to be heard by other people. So thank you again, Julie, for that. I really appreciate that. And I want to also talk a little bit about what the revising process is like. So basically I had another version of this book with I guess a different angle or a different bent. And I had already sent it to an editor and back twice. I got it back the second time and was like, you know what? I feel like I just knew, like deep down, I had that feeling that this book is not finished yet. And now is not the time to finish it. So I took that pause and now I jump back in and I've got like these fresh structures for how to communicate some of these things that we're talking about, like the 3 forms of bravery and the 12 ingredients of bravery. And I also have more stories to add to share or explain further how these ingredients and forms come about in our creative lives and just person to person relationship stuff too. So process-wise, what this stuff looks like right now is when I first sat down with this, I read through the old version, just like front to back, just to read it. Wasn't trying to edit it, but I just wanted to see like what work had I already done because it had been a while since I looked at it. Then separately, I wrote out an outline for this book, the way that I want it to be. And then I had to go through piece by piece with the old version to see like, okay, does this section or does this chapter belong in this new version of this book? Fortunately, most of it did. There was a couple sections that didn't make the cut, but that leaves me with a couple holes. Like I have a couple chapters that I've got to write or repurpose. I have a couple, I've got transition pieces or like sections of chapters that need to have better transitions or easier explanation, easier to understand explanation of things. So it's just like the rolling your sleeves up and getting dirty, and it's messy, it's really messy it feels like, when I was little and Mom would ask to clean the bedroom or like to clean out a closet or something. Oftentimes my room would look messier in the middle than it did at the beginning. And that's the way it is right now. So some days when you're in the thick of it like that, hearing a review like it needs to be heard, like this book needs to be heard, that means a lot. It means a lot to me. So thank you, Julie. And I also want to talk a little bit about, on a very final thing, I want to talk about the Me Too movement, I guess, that's what we call it. If you are someone who has experienced sexual harassment I know that that's been a hot topic in the news because of Harvey Weinstein. And I want to encourage you that, first of all, we've got several of our previous podcast guests who would be really good to listen to. Sarah Jane is a really great person to listen to. And also Marie Shaler's episode is really appropriate to listen to in light of this Me Too stuff. I know that I posted earlier this week that I too have experienced sexual harassment and abuse to some degree. Definitely not as bad as some other women, but now is not a time to play a comparison game. I don't think it's ever really worth comparing your pain to someone else's, but I think that we can find solidarity and stand together. I know that there's a lot of women who have experienced sexual harassment, but there's also a lot of men who have as well. And just because I'm a woman and just because we are perhaps victims of it does not also mean that we have contributed to it to some degree or another. Now, I know that's really a sensitive thing to say, kind of a ballsy thing to say. What I mean from a personal experience is that I know that I haven't spoken up when someone else has said something derogatory towards women. I would like shrug my shoulders or kind of fall into the boys will be boys thing, or, well, that's just how the industry works, I guess, or those kinds of subjects. And I'm not proud of it, but I think it's really important for all of us to be brave in standing up for ourselves and also standing up for other people and coming clean about how we've contributed to the culture of the rape culture that we live in. So yeah, it's an intense subject, but I think I'm really glad that we're all talking about it. I also, on a political level, I don't want to get distracted by these emotional memes. I mean, it's a meme. It's like it's a thing that's gone viral in our culture. It's a meme. So the Me Too meme, I don't want it to distract from some of the really important things. Not that that's not important, but some of the things that are happening politically that we can't and shouldn't ignore. So I am personally doing my best to reach out to my representatives, my Congress and local politicians to talk about some of the subjects that still really matter to me, like gun violence and mental health and healthcare in general, and also keeping the world safe and working together with other countries for peace. So if you have not exercised your speak up, stand up muscles yet, then I encourage you to do that this week. And that's regardless of what country you live in. I know that we have a lot of international listeners for the show. Julie is a great example of that out in New Zealand. So tell all Kiwis I said hello. But regardless of what country you live in now, there's something that you can speak up for and advocate for. And I want to just give you all the encouragement in the world to go ahead and do it. You ultimately are the deciding factor in whether you speak up and how you speak up and the timing in which you stand up to do so. And I just want to give you back that power of choice and empower you to do it. So yeah, there we go. Said my piece. Feels good. Okay, so moving forward, we've got some really wonderful guests coming up on the show, and I'm so excited to share them and their stories with you. So please keep your eyes and ears peeled. And if you're not a member of the Bare Naked Bravery community yet, I encourage you to hop onto barenakedbravery.com and download your Bravery bundle. And you'll get a bunch of things like a couple songs and a worksheet and the Bare Naked Bravery coloring book. And you'll get a link to join the Facebook group community. So you are more than welcome to join us because we really do need your bravery. And this stuff, like Julie said, this stuff needs to be heard as far and as wide as possible. So you guys are a part of that. Bless you. You're wonderful. I love you all. With all of that said, I want you to know that we do need your bravery. We need you to be vulnerable, imaginative, improvisational, and brave. We really do. We really need your bare naked bravery.